I'm recorded on my computer, and I have the maintainer training topic. And I was just going to show you some things that I've automated for me personally. And when I show you them, you're going to think, wow, Paul, you haven't really automated a lot, and you've kind of just discovered Git. And yeah, so I'm just going to show you some things that I do, but I know that there's lots of room for improvement. But I was going to show you one of the things that just helps me out significantly as a maintainer. So here is our doc. Here is my dot files. Go over here to home, to dot, and to git config. And I have this, and there's probably a better way to do this. And you see I have hard-coded master. I have this alias called review merge base. And what I use this for, I just got an email for, let me see if I can find the community contribution. It's a really awesome community contribution. Is this the issue? Oh no, this maybe. Oh no, this isn't it. All right, I'm gonna stop sharing my screen real fast so I can open up my email. Well, I don't think I have anything wrong there. I'm gonna stop sharing it. Okay. Let me open this up because it came up. Unless, in case you couldn't tell, I'm a little underprepared. I'm just trying to find a cool merge request that has lots of changes.
When you're ready to start sharing your screen again, Paul, do you want to start the recording as well?
Oh, that's a really good idea, but I am ready to do it now. So maybe I should just, anyways, yeah, that's a great idea. Oh well. Super cool community contribution. Someone is working really hard on this really neat feature. 26 file changes. And you look through some of this, and sometimes when I look through files, I don't know if you feel the same way, but I really like to see the whole context of something. Or if I know, okay, I want this to change, I want to write a patch for it. I just, in the GitLab UI, sometimes reviewing a merge request, I can't get my fingers in it. And so this is a little, there's a gap for me, and it hurts me as a reviewer. Part of it is because I don't get to see full context of files. I can't do quick searches across the whole code base. I can't change it and get my fingers in it. So sometimes I like to review locally. And to you people that are saying, hey, Paul, what about dog fooding our product? You're bringing up some good points. But how do I review this locally when there's 42 commits? How do I get just the changes? Just to check those out locally. And here's what I do. And this is also interesting because this is a community contribution. So we get to use another cool alias for just checking out this community contribution MR. Do I have it here? Oh, I do. Yeah, here's a cool Git alias called MR. And the way it works is it uses this ref path to fetch just the ref of this fork. So I don't have to like add a new remote or anything. And so all I have to do locally is just copy this merge request ID, and I go git mr origin, and then the merge request ID. It's gonna fetch the latest ref from that merge request, and then create a local branch for me to play around with it here. And so now I have this local mr origin, whatever that merge request is. And that's great. I look at the log, and yeah, we've done like even like merging and stuff. We have all sorts of changes here. How do I get just the changes of that merge request? And that's where this alias comes in of review-mb. And we could break it down a little bit, but basically all it does, the output of it is this. I feel like I got the wrong merge request. No, I didn't. Great. So the output of is this, just kind of like on our merge request view where I have a list over here of all the files, and I can see them over here to the right, and I can make changes and do searches, and I could test this out with different tweaks. Sometimes for some MRs, I find it incredibly helpful to review locally. And whenever I do, I'm almost always using this git review MB because especially if it's a community contribution, sometimes the commit history isn't necessarily clean. The only thing that I have to keep in mind of, one side effect of this git review MB, it introduces a revert commit that reverts everything that's changed from merge base. And then it does reverts that revert. So now I can view my changes here. So you don't want to push this up. You don't want to include this revert commit in any kind of patch or whatever. So usually if I'm going to write a patch, I'll then just commit this and start writing my patch or whatever. But yeah, that's git review MB. I use it often when reviewing merge requests locally. And for the sake of time, unless someone else has any other thoughts about cool things they see in dot files, that's about it. Do you guys have any thoughts or questions? Or I see, I mean, over here at the document, and Andrew says, do I Vim a lot? Have I considered Vim fugitive? I do Vim a lot. I have VS Code Vim because I Vim by default. I am in a really weird place where I use VS Code for everything, and sometimes I won't even realize I'm in VS Code, and I'll start Vimming inside of here. So yeah, Vim is my main editor. I haven't used Fugitive. I think I'm using something else. I haven't looked at my Vim config in a long time.
I'll just say it's the greatest Vim or the greatest Git plugin to ever exist.
Oh, nice. Okay. Does it do things like this? Is this a weird way of doing it? Is there a better way of doing this thing?
No.
There is a simpler one.
It does different things. It does different things. But I know you think you mentioned before that you Vim diff a lot.
Yeah, and that's one thing I do between, especially for community contributions, if I'm sending a patch and they're like, okay, I've applied this and are we good to go? I'll do a Vim diff.
There's a lot of...
Go ahead.
Oh yeah, I was just gonna say there's a lot of bonus diff functionality in
Okay.
Vim Fugitive that you might like.
You know, I'm not entirely sure if I have it. I do have Plug. Plug is for managing these plugins. So here's all my plugins. Yeah, I don't have it. Yeah, there you go.
Highly recommend it.
Cool. Thanks for the recommendation. Dennis, you're about to rock my world. What's going on?
Man, I thought I already did, but okay. So just, I had the same problem with the community contributions, right? Like it's very hard to provide a patch or to test this locally. So what I do, I just go download the patch and apply it locally to a separate changelog that is possible in RubyMine and be done with that.
So where's
you go up there. Like, yeah, this one, down. Yes, the button with download icon a bit above.
Right off checkout branch.
Yeah, just plain div. You get it. You apply it. You're done, man.
That's really helpful. Yeah, I like this one.
Oh,
too.
yeah. Trust me, it is.
I might write a bash.
Is sitting there.
I might write a bash script just for this to download it and then apply it. Yeah, that's a good idea.
Facet, you're just that much into scripts. You're just fan of writing scripts. That's it.
Wait, is there an email patch button? Has anyone tried that out? That sounds like a good time.
All right, this does sound like a good time to try out. No, my button's not working. Okay, email patches. Oh, this is the email patch for like the Git can format patches a little differently. So this must be.
Oh, but it doesn't actually email the patch to you. That's unfortunate.
Anyways, yeah. For the sake of time, we might be interested in moving on. That's my little bit of contribution. Cool. Thanks for letting me share that, and thanks for the education, Dennis. Yeah, I'm gonna have to do something else.
Cool. Sorry for jumping the queue, and I'm just taking 1 minute. So yeah, so that I can run to the other meeting. On Family and Friends Day, I built like this little tool and polished it over this week. What am I sharing? It's this window. Okay. And the tool essentially gets all merge requests, parses the system nodes of all merge requests for assignment events because we don't have an API for events, And then or maybe I don't know about it. And then for each assignment of an MR, it increases the count per one. It also, you're able to hide or show the maintainers that are there or not. So for the sake of, showing stuff, let's maybe go with this one. So you would see in one dashboard who is available, and you potentially can sort like by how many MRs someone has been assigned. And now you're asking, hey, why assignment events? Is it deduplicated per MR? No, it's not. So the idea, and you can maybe tell me if that's the right idea, is if you're assigned to one MR 4 times, this 4 assignment events, and it means like, hey, you have potentially 4 context switches, right? Even if you go back to the same MR. So how would you use it on, I don't know, potentially for people or community contribution, it's really easy to pick a maintainer because you can pick from a maintainer that's available. So it's like a on-demand reviewer roulette. Or you could, for example, if you're unsure who to assign, could have a look. Or maybe as a maintainer yourself, you could have a look and be like, hey, let's look at the averages and oh wow, I'm reviewing like 20 MRs per day in the last 7 days. Maybe I set myself to unavailable. Just like some funs and dabble and stats and finding bugs in GitLab UI. Yeah. Do you have any questions? I'm going to share it with the Viver company. I already shared it with some folks before, but now it's available on GitLab pages. Any questions? Any comments?
It's actually quite cool, I think. It's really, really cool.
Yeah.
Thanks for building it.
Yeah, no worries. It's also helpful for us managers to have an insight like how many MRs someone assigns, and please don't use it to compare yourselves, right? I think Jose is a good example, has a really low rate now, but because he was on vacation in the last 30 days, right? So he was like on vacation for 2 weeks, right? So these numbers are not really comparable. But I would say, 30 days is a long enough average that you can see, hey, what's maintainers should hover around a certain value, and if you're like maybe too far off in the one side, you can change behavior, or we could tell Tim to finally stop being a maintainer. Yeah. Just kidding. Cool. Yeah, carry on.
Cool. Thanks, Lucas. It's awesome. So I just wanted to spend a little bit of time talking about this update to the maintainer process. There was an MR a little while ago which changed the language of how the maintainer process worked. And the end result was that it removed some of the friction, I think. I think that was the original intention, because some management wanted more maintainers to become maintainers. And so this MR just removed that friction. But with a recent trainee maintainer issue, there was some discussion about that. So Paul opened this MR, thank you for doing that, Paul, which I think the basic idea is to reinstate that friction because it's there by design. And I happen to agree with that, and I didn't agree with the original one. So I'm behind this. So that's my thoughts. What does everyone else think?
So as somebody who's here who's not a maintainer yet, my one thought is it does feel like it makes it harder every single time someone becomes a maintainer to become a maintainer. Because if you're just taking 50%, then if there's 8 maintainers, you have to convince 4 people. But if there's 20 maintainers, you have to convince 10 people. And I think that is interesting. I'm not saying we should do it or we shouldn't do it, but it seems to be a kind of funny fallout of that change.
Yeah, you bring up a really good point, Sarah, and which is why the language of this MR is different than it originally was, where for backend, that has like, I don't know, backend just seems enormous. So let's say 50 maintainers. That may be overstating it. 50% is 25. Like, that's a little ridiculous. And I think the idea isn't we need 50%. We just want to have, a good group of maintainers that can give some feedback or even just affirm them as like, yes, you're ready, let's go for it. And so this says 50% or 8, whichever is less. So to me, I think 8 sounds like a good round number and represents some sort of statistically significant group, probably. So yeah, this is changing the original language, which was 50%, because yeah, it sounds weird. Every time we get larger, it gets harder. That's weird. 8 should be significant. That's something specific about this, Omar.
In my case, I think that the time box to give feedback is too short. 48 hours is not enough for us to analyze all of the candidate's proposal. Considering that most of them are pretty large, so I think that we could increase the time period for a time box. But at the same time, I've seen in the time that I've been working on GitLab, several merge requests that has been lingering for months, and I think that that's not fair for the maintainer candidate either. And I think that the previous change that created like the current constraints, the current conditions, was trying to fix that. And now with this merge request, we are reverting that improvement. So I think that we should find a third alternative, something that in some ways could give the maintainers candidate feedback that is timely, that we are not just like, leaving their merge request for weeks unattended. There are many ways to do that. I propose some ideas, but I think that one way of doing it is that if we have a neutral position, we should be explicit about it. I mean, if we are explicit about it, at least we know like what is the current situation of the proposal.
So I have a strong objection about the statement Enrique made but not voiced about if we have 2 approvals and 18 neutral from 20 maintainers, we should take this as approval. As a person who gave a negative feedback, probably it was the only case for the last 6 months, I have to say this is extremely hard to get a negative feedback in maintainer issue, especially if everyone else approves. You feel like really weird at this moment, and it's really easier to slip to neutral, like I don't have a ground to approve, neither objections. And right now, I don't think we are in an urgent need of maintainers for the front end, like it was 3 months ago. So right now, I believe we should follow the same strategy we have for our recruitment. When we have 4 interviews, and if 4 of them are yes, this is not accepted. Like candidate is not passed. We need at least 1 strong yes in this case. And I believe for us, strong yes should be some number of maintainers. I agree with Sarah here, maybe half of maintainers with growing numbers is not a good idea, but at least some static number we should have like a threshold to pass. And like if we have 2 approvals and 18 neutral, something is not really good here. Maybe we just need to give this maintainer a bit more time to prove himself or herself. Just my 2 cents here.
So perhaps it's a matter of semantics. I think that in that case, a neutral position could be like a soft objection, right? We should call it like that.
I mean, for me, definitely yes, because sometimes it's too scary to voice an objection, and sometimes it's just a gut feeling, not something you can, oh, hey, this is really wrong, but it's like, I have a feeling that this is just not enough to be a maintainer, but I cannot make an objection here, especially a strong one.
So I'm not good at like filling out surveys, and we have to like, do you strongly agree, strongly disagree, or feel indifferent? I'm usually the like check in the middle indifferent person. I think for these kind of things, I would not interpret a neutral as any kind of objection or any kind of approval, because we have now 16, 17 maintainers. Chances are, unless I've actually sat down and reviewed what this MR is pointing to, I may not really have any opinion because our team's large. I haven't worked with you, and I need to kind of excuse myself unless I'm taking the time to look at the MR that you created. And that takes some time. It takes a lot of time. So I would and I agree a lot with what Natalia is saying. And this goes on to my next point of we should require approvals for these MRs. We require approval, like, so I don't want to skip ahead. Dennis, you had something to say, and then I'll say my point.
No, I just wanted to say that I totally agree with Natalia about this. That we should not count those who are neutral or like. I have an odd feeling now here because we are saying that neutral is either people are don't feel comfortable expressing negative opinion or something like this. But like, what if I just didn't have time to get to the issue? Like, am I the only one who gets into this situation? I don't know. Like, I just don't have time. Like, getting into the maintainer's issue at the end of milestone is very challenging, and I just don't have time. And it's like, that's why I'm neutral. That's why I don't leave any comment. I can write it down that I don't have time now. It wouldn't make my comment any more positive or any more negative, but it will just still mean that I'm neutral, right? But this doesn't mean that my voice should be counted towards acceptance or rejection. It's still neutral. So I think we have to base the metrics on only on the positive reviews. And getting back to Enrique's point about maintainers just not giving feedback, like the point of stimulating maintainers to get to and give the feedback, either positive or negative, or explicitly say that, yes, I'm neutral here. This is another story, how we stimulate maintainers to get there. But this should not be covered by this merge request. I think that basing on a positive number, that on the number of positive reviews, this is our main benchmark, kind of.
When Enrique brought this up, I suggested that we could have two things. Is one, I think when some of these MRs come up and everyone is busy, and there's definitely some bit of a bystander effect that can happen where we're like, oh, well, the other maintainers will review this. And, so I think what could be helpful is for if an MR is obviously stalled and we haven't got a lot of feedback, that person can individually reach out to individual maintainers that they know that they've worked with, and just, I've been reached out to, like, hey, can you review this? And it takes me a couple of days, but when someone pings me on Slack, I'm gonna most likely get to it than if I was in a larger group. And so I think that's one solution to fixing this radio silence that can happen in some MRs. The other thing is maybe we do need to give a canned response to maintainers of a very neutral response, so that it's not like there's just silence. But I agree a lot with Enrique, is we can't accept just, hey, we're pinged and now nothing happens. We do need to give even just some, like, hey, I haven't checked this out and I'm a little busy right now. Please ping me directly if you want me to look into this. Like that, giving a response to maintainers so that they can be explicit that they're kind of expecting other maintainers to hop on might be helpful. For the sake of time, I'm going to move on to this point, and I'm planning on writing a comment about it. And I appreciate everyone to voice what your concerns are. I appreciate, Enrique, you've commented on this merge request. One of the arguments that was used in the original merge request, I thought that, so first, going back, the original merge request, I thought had this intention, but then now I'm realizing it kind of didn't have this intention. So we are doing somewhat of a reverting of an intention. And it sounds like one of the arguments used was that we should trust each other. Therefore, if someone says, oh, they think they're a maintainer, hey, I trust you, you're a maintainer now. And I think, yes, we should trust each other. I don't think this is mutually exclusive, that extending trust and going through this process of getting approvals. I personally wouldn't want to be a maintainer if other maintainers didn't think, hey, Paul is, you can do this. I would feel unwelcome, or I would feel like an imposter or something. I can imagine. So going through this affirming process can be really good. We also trust each other in code, but we do code review. And I don't think review is necessarily a distrust. It's part of collaboration. That's something a comment I'm gonna drop in this MR about that. Nico made a note.
Yeah. So I wrote at length in the MR, but what I wanted to say that I don't think that becoming maintainer is a race. And you did a path, 6 months, 8 months, 4 months, however long it was, to reach the point where you told that it's time to propose yourself a maintainer. And I think that the final part of getting feedback from your peers is actually, it's very interesting and challenging. And personally, I'm very new maintainer. It took me 3 weeks or 2 weeks and a half to collect all the necessary approval. But it was like the best part of the journey, because I've got feedback, I've got reassurance, I got highlighted what I should do better, so that then I walked in the maintainer road with a certain confidence that that basically the confidence was even built through the MR and through the feedback of the other maintainers. If somebody opened an MR and it's merged by default because some sort of time passed, I'm not sure that they are going to walk into maintainer with the same level of acceptance or the same level of confidence. Maybe yes, maybe no. But I'm saying that we should look at this like an opportunity to receive feedback more than gatekeeping things like you're in, you're out, right? And I wanted to echo as well Dennis' point that it doesn't take 5 minutes to do one of those reviews if you don't have collaborated with the person. I think it can take up to a day. I did one yesterday, and just the review part without counting the outread part, it took me half a day. I wrote some number, but I think we could have a process to ping people, like first general ping after 2-3 days whoever didn't comment, and then assign the people that didn't comment, and then after 2 weeks, 3 weeks, well, we can count. Well, those are my idea. If you wanna, I expose them better when I wrote them out. I think Andrew is the next.
I'm wondering if we just need to write down that we need to focus on looking at these MRs a little more.
Yeah, I think that's a good call. One side note, and I started doing this pattern with the last handful of maintainer MRs I reviewed. Even no matter what my gut feeling was, or if I worked with them or not, I'm gonna try to look as unbiasedly as I can. What is your MR description? Based on these reviews, here's some praise and feedback that I can give. Even if I think, okay, I know this person's gonna be a maintainer. Because I think opening up the door to where even if someone's approved, we give feedback, can't open up to the door where, okay, I don't think this person needs to be a maintainer, and here's why. I think we do have a little bit of groupthink that can be difficult to counteract when we don't think someone needs to be a maintainer, but everyone's approved and no one's given any feedback. That could be a bit of a challenge. But also, even, yeah, if everyone is approved, everyone's happy about it, just receiving that feedback is so valuable, because this is a chance for peer review. And I think it does take some time. Dennis, I know, time boxing. Okay. Yeah, I know. We're at the end. Do you want to take the last minute, Dennis?
No, I think I'll raise this next meeting.
Okay.
It's a nice one, and it would raise a lot of discussions, I guess.
Yeah.
So,
well, what's the takeaway here? There's an MR for it, but is there an action from this discussion? Do we want to? I'm worried about this MR just becoming a huge abstract discussion between maintainers about processes, and like, because right now, let me highlight there's some caveats to how our language is worded here, and that means that a maintainer can be approved with no approvals. And right now, the way it's worded is a maintainer can be approved if we have half approvals and half objections. And something is just off with this wording. So I'd like to change it sooner than later. So if you guys have any strong objections to this wording, or maybe we need to create a follow-up for some broader ideas, that would be helpful. Yeah, it's next meeting time. Thanks, everybody. And unless anyone has any other final remarks, I'm going to stop recording and hop off. You all have a great rest of the day. And welcome, Jose, to maintainers.
Thank you
and
so
for
much.
being back on vacation.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah. All right. I'm sorry we didn't say that even earlier. All right. Bye.
It was an interesting discussion, though.
Thanks. Bye.